have a moment for you here of Republican Representative Paul Gosar during a border security related hearing within Congress. And we actually have a few moments from the same hearing to take a look at that are fascinating. But this first one from Paul Gosar is so infuriating, but very common, this type of rhetoric that we've heard from many within the Republican Party on the issue, on the conversation of immigration and undocumented immigration, specifically the border, even more specifically. And so we'll look at this, but first, I know we have a lot of people new to our channel every day these days, which is super wonderful, love the growth. But because of that, sometimes I want to give a little bit more context about my view in case you're unfamiliar with the show, not a regular viewer. So before we look at this, let me just say, I think that 100% we are experiencing an issue right now, logistically, and a humanitarian problem in regard to immigration, undocumented immigration specifically. The reason for that is not some coordinated effort by Biden to do the things that Paul Gosar will say in a second. The reason for that is a much larger conversation having to do with the realities in the countries that these individuals are coming from. And the way that we solve that problem is not by fear-mongering about the individuals and trying to dehumanize the individuals coming looking for a better life. It is instead to invest, yes, in border security so that we can identify individuals coming across the southern border. But so importantly, what the Republican Party often leaves out, invest in enhancing and expanding our legal immigration process so that we can handle the numbers that we're seeing as of recently, and have the interest within that system of, yes, as I always say, the United States, but the interest of the individual looking for a better life as well. And that benefits everyone. If we can put these human beings on a path to a better life where they'll be able to contribute to our country in incredible ways, as we've seen historically, that is the best for everyone. Dehumanizing doesn't do anything for anyone. It only does harm. And so my general view is, let's talk about solving the issue we're having right now with the logistical problems at our southern border, the humanitarian problems at our southern border. The way that the Republican Party is going about that is deeply, deeply flawed. Take a look.
How would Biden do this? To create chaos? To sow discord? What is the answer to this mess for Biden and the Democrats? More Big Brother? More control? Even changing our culture? Instead of empowering these two brave individuals and the rest of the Border Patrol seated here in front of us with the tools they need to stem the invasion of illegal aliens, Biden sends billions upon billions to Ukraine to protect a border of another country.
So calling it an invasion, what does the invasion word mean, right? Well, why is that word being used? Well, you tell me, what would be the justified response to an invasion in most contexts? Violence. Military invasions, you respond violently, right? They're choosing to use that word, and it is incredibly dangerous because you are putting in the minds of your followers a violent connotation. You're saying this is not an increase in immigration or even an increase in undocumented immigration, illegal border crossings. Instead, it is an invasion that, as he said, is coming for your culture. It's coming, Biden's trying to coordinate all this to take control over you. And it is so dangerous. It is so, so dangerous. And so that's why this gets me so angry. You can tell I'm just trying to hold back because I'm less articulate whenever I get really angry. So I'm trying to hold that in. But it genuinely is calling for violence in a thinly veiled way. And I'm so sick of seeing that within these situations. So again, I say, yes, we should have a border. Yes, we should secure our border. Yes, all these different things. No, I'm not pro undocumented immigration because I think we should be able to manage the individuals looking for a better life through our legal immigration process if we properly invested in that process, if we properly invested in the systems that would facilitate that. And the Republican Party has been the entity blocking the proposals put forward by the Democratic Party to do just that in recent years, specifically even with Biden in recent years. And it is all so dishonest. Now let's continue with the same hearing. A Democratic Representative, Robert Garcia, made a very good point about another dishonest angle from the perspective of the Republican Party within this discussion.
Very derogatory terms. That is not a way to solve this problem. I've heard today a lot of conversation about fentanyl and drugs coming over the border. And one argument that I have heard is this false connection between asylum seekers and immigrants and the very serious fentanyl crisis that we actually is serious in our country and in our community. Now, Chief Modelin, you've made aware some of in some of your comments earlier, but I want to note that the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office has found that over 90% of fentanyl border seizures actually occur at legal border crossings, and that 91% of drug seizures are actually from U.S. citizens. Now, this same study found that only 4% was from potentially removable immigrants. The percentage of all those arrested at Border Patrol who possess any fentanyl, according to the conservative institute, the Cato Institute, is actually 0.02%. And so the truth is that a vast majority of fentanyl is being smuggled by U.S. citizens at legal ports of entry. And I think
absolutely something we've talked about multiple times on this show. And this is one of those subjects that just really, really fires me up, because as he laid out there, and there's different specific figures you'll get based on the batches of research that have been done, when they were done, which entity did them, but all of them within the batch that I've gone through, some on the show that a majority of fentanyl is coming through legal ports of entry. And as he said, the figure he cited, 91% being U.S. citizens. So the question has to be asked then, because clearly the majority of this problem has nothing to do with immigration, nothing to do with undocumented immigration. It's not to say that we want undocumented immigration, because as I'll say a million times, we should have a legal immigration system that's set up in such a way that individuals looking for a better life go through that and all those different things. But as long as those in the right wing who purport to care about this issue are talking about the fact that the increase we've seen in undocumented immigration is the reason why we've seen an increase in fentanyl, as long as they're talking about that, they're not talking about the reality, and they're not talking about actual solutions we could be discussing, which enrages me, because I wish more Democrats, as he did there, would speak the truth and actually go against what the Republican Party is saying. It seems to be just many Democrats ignore the issue. We have a real problem with fentanyl, and it needs to be addressed. And the Republican Party is not just not addressing it. They're actively working to make sure people are focusing on something that will prevent us from addressing the fentanyl crisis. Because as long as we're focusing on this myth that Biden has opened the border and is bringing in all these undocumented immigrants who are bringing in all this fentanyl, we're not focusing on actually how the fentanyl is getting into our country, which means we're not focusing on actually how we can solve the problem. So they're working against the very solution that they pretend to care about finding. It drives me insane. And it's one of the most dishonest, even though there's so many examples of this, talking points and narratives and fear-mongering devices that you'll see in American politics. Last moment we'll look at from this hearing, this time from Democratic Representative Maxwell Frost.
You know, it's unfortunate that this hearing started off with a ton of hyperbole and posturing, saying that President Biden and his administration have created the worst border crisis in American history. That isn't about oversight. It's about stoking the fears of immigrants and those seeking asylum. And it's something I take personally as a son of a Cuban refugee. Look, for many folks around the country who might only watch far-right media or just listen to even some of the folks on this committee, I'm curious, Chief Chavez, when President Biden took office, did your agents stop enforcing the border and just allow everybody to come in, thus creating what we hear here is an open border? Did that happen when the president took office?
Sir, thank you for your question. The answer is no, sir.
Okay,
we
thank you.
continue to enforce policy and laws.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Chief Modelin, when President Biden took office, did the...
And then he goes down and asks multiple of those who were appearing at the hearing. And the answer, of course, is no, we don't have an open border. So why does the Republican Party keep saying that? They care more about fear-mongering than the humanity of the people they're fear-mongering about, and than the solution they're talking about. They don't want a very well secured border where individuals are not seeking to come across illegally because they're going through our legal immigration system, because they're not even for the actions that would make that possible. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.